Good morning, all. In previous session, we had discussion on planning process and quantifying expectations. In today's sessions, we are going to discuss planning data and classifying expectations. So planning data reliability is very much important in the planning process. So the data plays very important role for making decisions in planning. So therefore, planning data have high reliability. Every management of an organization always depends on data, whatever available from different sources, and they reliable on the data. And according to the data performance, they make planning for future actions. The reliability of the planning data is influenced by the following factors. There are 4 factors. On that basis, the planning data is influenced. The first one is source of data. The second one is the influence of plan on outcome. The third one, intended accuracy. And fourth one, time. Here, management is going to collect the data from different sources, especially the data which are collected from outside source will receive a different evaluations because the different planners, they uncertain on the quality of the data collected from outside sources. Definitely, when the planner depends on the outside source of a data, there may be certain uncertainty in the future plannings. So there may be deterioration in the quality of planning. That is the first influence. The second is a plan on outcome. Especially in the planning, when they make budget, appropriation type of budget, so they have to determine the outcome of that budget. So for example, units spend whatever is budgeted or not. So how much is budgeted, it has to spend for a particular purpose. So that has to be compared with the outcome. So when appropriation with the budget, so there may be the planning influenced on that matter. And third one is intended accuracy. So planning estimates and it do not require a uniform standard for the accuracy because certain figures are more critical than the others. So while making planning, they are doing so many estimations and calculations. So while making planning, there is no any standard policy that they have to make a planning in the a particular standard way. Therefore, the accuracy of the planning may influence on available data. For example, if an error of 50% of calculation of the cost of office pencils, supposing that the management making a budget for purchasing pencils, and there may be a chances of 50% of errors, because if they make more budget for purchasing a pencil, definitely there will be a mismatch in the plannings and the actual actions. But they are not so serious about a 50% of error in the cost of raw materials. So that may be influenced, means the error of making plannings influence the planning process. And the fourth one, time. So the predictability of the future events generally decreases with the prediction time plan. If the forecast period is extended for a longer period, so definitely the data tends to become less accurate. And if the planning process is for shorter period, so there may be a chance of accuracy in the planning. So the planning process basically makes for a longer period for future forecast, and definitely there will be a less accurate as an expression of what is to be expected in the planning. So these are the 4 points which influence the planning process. And then classifications of expenditure. The classification of expectations so depend on the type of the plan and as well as how they classified the expenditures. So data may collected from variety of ways, from variety sources. So expenditure in budget plan can be classified in the following way. So when you are making a plan for a budget of expenditure, it must contain 5 elements. First, object of expenditure. The second one, reason for expenditure. Third one, output. Fourth one, organizational unit. And fifth one, cost behavior. So it can be represented in a tabular form. See here, the first one, object of expenditure. When you are making budget, you should have a clear object for what purpose you are making expenditure. For example, for salary purpose, or for supply of goods, or for traveling expenses, or for different kinds of activities which are undertaken in the organization, that has to be clearly mentioned in the expenditure, the main objective of the expenditure. The second one is reason for expenditure. So reason means what are the functions you are involving for incurring expenditures, for manufacturing or for marketing or for a special type of programs like healthcare or sanitation or protection of employees. For all these purposes, if you are making expenditure, you have to clearly mention for what reason you are incurring expenditures, for what functions, for what activities, or for what programs you are making expenditures. And third point, you should clearly mention what may be the outcomes or outputs. Say when you are manufacturing some appliances, the end products may be a refrigeration or a washing machine. So after completion of a manufacturing, what will be the output? So it may be a refrigerator or a washing machine. So that can be used in homes for appliances, house appliances. Okay. And the fourth point is organizational unit. So for every budget, you have to consider what are the departments or units of organization involving for incurring expenditures. So what are departments taking care of these budgets? So you have to clearly mention as a organizational units. So in an organization, there may be a different departments or different units. So manufacturing or sales, purchase, marketing, advertisement, there are different units are working under single organization. So under whom the budgeted expenditure is going to be taken care, that has to clearly mention in the organization unit. And the last one, cost behavior. So here you have to consider the behavior of the cost. Means if you make any changes in the activity, then what will be the controllability by management? Means how you are going to control the cost behavior. If the cost increases, how it has to control, or if the manufacturing increases, how it has to control, that has to decide on the basis of cost behavior. These are the 5 points that has to considered as a classification of expenditure, and you need to prepare in the expenditure classifications. And the planning process needs data. So the data can be collected from various sources, like from the internal data that is collected internally, every organization, and process the data, and as well as external data from various outside sources of the organization, and some of the data can be collected from environmental scanning. So the internal data always reflects the historical performance of the organization. Whatever the achievements made by the organization that was recorded in the books, that has to be referred as a historical performance of the organization, and that can be used as a internal source of data. And as well as, so you can easily access these data, and internal data has more accuracy than other source of data, because it is created by the organization. As and when the data created, according to that, it is recorded in the books, and you find more accuracy compared to other source of data. The second one is the external data. So external data can be obtained from different sources, such as published reports, government documents, or services that provide industry data. So every organization publishes its reports annually. Its financial statements, like profit and loss account and balance sheet, they have to publish in the any journals or any papers or magazines. So from that you can collect as a secondary sources of data. And some of the document every organization needs to submit to the government, and from the government document also you can collect the data. And as well as some of the data provides industrial data in the magazines. For example, if you want to obtain information about a competitor, then you can collect it from the regular published financial reports and government filings by the competitor, which are publicly held companies. Means companies held responsible to publish financial reports annually, all the organizations. From those reports you can collect as a secondary sources of data. And as well as external data can also be obtained from data banks. Data banks means it is just like a database having data related to an organization, covering wide variety of economic activity. Means which organization performs which type of economic activity is recorded in the data banks. So from the data banks you can collect the data related to other organizations or competitors. So those are external source of data. And next, you can also collect the data from another alternative way, alternative source, that is environmental scanning techniques. So some of the examples I'm quoting here. The first one is scenario writings. So organization, they are what they are doing means, so they ask some individuals to write scenarios of events they think may occur. Means they hire some writers, so who are critic or who are expert in giving reviews. So they asked to write the scenario of certain events of the organization, thinking it may occur. Okay, so on the writings of the scenario you can collect the data. And sometimes the second one is simulation. So some of the events can be simulated by the organization. So if there is a change in particular activity, what will be the effect? You can simulate, means you can practice. So what may be the result of change? So examples, the effect of change in the age distribution of population, the effect of change in worldwide interest rates. Means if you classify the population on the basis of age, so what will be the effect of interest rates on them? You can simulate and get the output. Means it is just like a research work. Okay. And third is cross impact analysis. Means you can also test a cross impact analysis by changing some environment in the estimation. For example, environment may be social or political or physical or any technological, or it may be legal. For example, if you want to estimate the impact of change in the import policy in the common market and demand for company products. So supposing that you know that the GST imposed on every seller or manufacturer or any organization who is doing business, they have to pay GST. Okay, what will be the impact of GST on the product and on the behavior of the customer? So like this, you can analyze the impact of any change in one activity and what will be the effect of other activity. Okay, and the fourth one is econometric model. You can also test some econometric models that estimates the demands and supply of the products, services, and cost of the products. So along with that, you can also collect the source, collect the data from input output analysis. So the effect of any activity or changes in any sector of an economy, and what will be the effect of other sector. Okay, for example, if the price of oil is increased, the cost effect can be traced to all sectors using oil or oil based products. So nowadays you heard that petrol and diesel rate has been increased. So what will be the effect on the business who are depending on the petrol or diesel? So you can analyze it, and on that basis you can collect some sources data. And as well as the last source is Delphi projections. Means you may ask the expert peoples to prepare a projections, so to estimate some future plannings and specify their projections. And after the submitted projections, you can summarize it and ask the participants to revise their estimates based on their average estimate. Okay, so by taking more than one estimate, and you can do the average. So you can do sum divided by the total number of projections or total number of products. So you can come to a average estimation by referring the Delphi projections. These are the other sources of data, and these data has to be used for planning process. So this is what today's discussion. So in today's discussion, if you have any query, you may ask the question. No doubts? Okay, thank you. We'll continue in the next session with another topic. Thank you for the session.